Resident Evil Village is the 8th installment in the Resident Evil series and follows returning character Ethan Winters as he desperately searches for his daughter Rose in a small European village out in the mountains. Now, I wasn't too excited about this game because Resident Evil 7 didn't really impress me too much. I'm one of the people who prefers a third-person Resident Evil game. The first-person stuff just didn't really vibe with me, but I decided to give this one a shot for some weird reason 2 days before the game even came out. So here we are, and now I'm here to review it. So without further ado, let us get into the story aspect of this game.
No, friendly.
Who are you? Who sent you?
Nobody. There was an accident down on the road and... What's going on?
Oh no.
The story in this game is very simple. As I said in the beginning, Ethan is searching for his daughter Rose, and it leads him to this village. And of course, the things that are standing in his way are the four lords of the said village. You have the most well-known one, of course, by the Resident Evil community and everyone with a social media account, Lady Dimitrescu, who is the big, tall vampire lady. You have Moreau, who is a deformed, kind of like hunchbacked monster. You have Donna and Angie, who are a very creepy pair because she controls a porcelain doll. And then, of course, the personal favorite of mine is Carl Heisenberg, which is basically if you paired Van Helsing and Magneto together in the Resident Evil universe, and you got yourself one of the coolest characters in the entire story. It doesn't falter at all during the story. I didn't think that, you know, Ethan was kind of losing his motivation. He quite literally every single solitary time he gets the chance talks about Rose. So the stakes were absolutely believable. There were twists and turns that happened in the story a couple times that I personally wasn't expecting. I stayed away from the trailers, so I personally actually didn't even know that there were 3 other lords. I thought it was just Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters. So I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that there were a whole ensemble of characters that you got to meet. The game has pretty decent twists at the end. The third act especially is incredibly exciting. Probably my second favorite part in the game. It is super, super good. It's intense, and it's just overall a lot of fun to experience. So much so that at the point of this recording, I have beaten the game 6 times. Like, I really, really like the story. So without further ado, let us jump into the actual meat of the game itself, gameplay.
Damn it.
The gameplay in this game, just like any other survival horror game, clunky would be the best word to describe it. Actually, in the first hour of the game, I was getting annoyed at the gunplay because the first gun that you get in this game, the Lemmy, which is this basically battered handgun, is terrible. I would rather use any other gun. I honestly, there were a couple times I was using my knife because of how much I didn't like that pistol. It is absolutely terrible, and I was getting very much frustrated when my pistol took about 12 shots to kill one thing. Which of course made things more intense because survival horror games are all about conserving ammo. The movement feels kind of clunky in the beginning as well, which of course is to kind of be expected from a Resident Evil game. I mean, clunky movement and, you know, the gunplay being wonky is the whole charm of Resident Evil. It makes things scarier when you're not this soldier running around with an AK mowing things down. while you're progressing through the game, there is a merchant, of course, similar to Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. You're able to sell things and upgrade your weapons, buy new ones. This one expands on that a little bit more. There are these things called recipes where you can hunt down various animals throughout the map that give you certain meat. There's like juicy game, like finest fish and stuff like that, which unlock recipes to give you certain abilities. For example, it increases your health or greatly decreases the amount of damage you get when you guard. And one of the best ones being movement speed increased, which is very, very nice. And the Duke, in and of himself, is actually a character of his own, and he's kind of interesting to see as you progress through the game, because he progresses through the story with you in a way. He has, dialogue referring to the achievements that you just, you set off, you kill a monster or anything like that, to kill a boss, and he recognizes that, which I thought was cool. But yeah, overall, I think the gameplay is very, very solid for a survival horror game, despite it being clunky. That's kind of the charm of it all, and I had no problems with it at all later on as the game progressed. Pissed me off a little bit in the beginning, but that's just because I'm a bitch. The amount of guns in this game is insane. I don't think there's been a Resident Evil game with as many guns as Resident Evil Village. There are so many that you can choose from as you progress through the game, both after the first playthrough and during the first playthrough. You have like 2 or 3 different shotguns, you have 3 or 4 different pistols. It's a lot of fun to choose which weapon you like. There's a few different magnums as well, which of course is one of my favorite weapons in the Resident Evil series. Does an insane amount of damage, and it's hilarious to one-tap bosses. Later on, after your second or third playthrough, or fourth or fifth or sixth, there are ARs and stuff like that that are a lot of fun to use, and they feel different. Each gun feels different. I can shoot the Lemmy, which is the starter pistol, and absolutely hate my time playing the game. Or I could be shooting the 1911 and actually have a lot of fun because it kills things in more than 20 bullets. Or I could be pulling out the Wolfsbane, which is one of the prettiest guns in the game. It's this beautiful black and ivory Magnum revolver, and it just absolutely murders. It's so much fun to use. Not only that, but at the end of the game, when you're all said and done and you complete the entire, your first playthrough, they have this thing called the extra content shop, where basically completing achievements and in-game challenges rewards you CP. And those challenge points unlock certain guns and infinite ammo and all the good stuff, all the extras that Resident Evils have had before in this shop, so you can use it in the main game. And it's so much fun to do all these challenges and earn all the points and buy all the different kinds of guns that you can use, that just you go in and you just wreck everything that you've done. Every monster that you've killed, every boss that you may or may not have had a hard time with, completely melted under the new guns that are in the content shop, and it makes it so much fun to see how fast you can kill bosses in typical Resident Evil fashion. It's always fun to speed run through the game and try to see how fast you can actually get in the game. It's very, very fun, and it's just a typical Resident Evil game. The gameplay is good. It's good. I thoroughly enjoy it. Despite the clunkiness in the beginning, I thoroughly enjoy it. So after that is all said and done, you have the main campaign completed, you have a handful of challenges done, you have all these new guns and stuff like that. There's, of course, the game mode that is returning in this one, Mercenaries. Now, to those of you who don't know, Mercenaries is like Resident Evil arcade mode, where you have to kill enemies and get combos, and the higher the combo, the more score you get. You are on a time limit. Enemies you kill give a small time bonus, and basically you just go to see if you can beat the levels and get the highest score with the time provided. This one's a little different compared to Mercenaries like in Resident Evil 5, where this one has abilities where you go up and you get to choose between one of the 3 abilities that are in this blue orb. And they have abilities such as like max health increases, if you kill an enemy they explode, guarding takes no damage, knives do 5 times more damage, and as you progress through these levels, there's about 8 of them total, you start to unlock new abilities, which allows you to kind of mix and match and kind of make the game cater to you. Just making this whole combination where you could potentially be this unstoppable monster with just a knife. This mode is so much fun. It is the perfect mode to throw in after the initial campaign. You only get to unlock it after the campaign is done, and it is the perfect way to just turn off your brain, go through all the stuff that you just did, but in like a fun arcade format where you kind of just get to like sit back and let off a bunch of steam, just mowing down all these things that gave you a hard time during the campaign. I have completed all the stages. All of them are very, very fun. The game isn't without its challenges though, because the last half of those stages are all super challenging, and they throw away all the weapons that you pretty much are able to use through the other ones, so you kind of have to figure that out. That one wasn't as fun. It was a lot more challenging, but feels very satisfying when you complete it and get a high rank. Overall, I think Mercenaries is phenomenal in this game. I genuinely love Mercenaries. Now, as much as I have praised this game, every aspect of it, and how much I thoroughly enjoyed the overall game, there are just a small amount of faults that the game has, in my opinion, that stops me from giving it this all-time perfect score. And one of the bigger nitpicks that isn't so much a nitpick at all, the boss fights. The boss fights are a little lame. They're not very exciting, save for the last boss in the game. I didn't really think that they were great fights. They were super simple. They weren't as interesting as previous Resident Evil games. They just kind of happened, and some of them happened way too fast, almost a blink and you'll miss it. Some of them don't even like have a cutscene or anything to introduce them. They just show up, then you kill them, and you're just continuing your playthrough. I wish the bosses were a little bit more interesting, which is really unfortunate because I like all the characters in the game. All the villains, as I stated, I like all of them. They all have interesting character traits, and they have all different interests and motives and stuff like that. Heisenberg especially. Heisenberg's fight was a little disappointing because he had the most character development out of all 4 lords. Not Lady Dimitrescu, who was probably the second in terms of character development. He had the most character development, and his boss fight was kind of disappointing, but that's either here nor there. I still had a lot of fun with the game, with everything else that the game provided. Another nitpick that I have is some of the dialogue that Ethan says mid-game is so stupid. It is just it's almost to the point where it's a little annoying. He just doesn't. He says the most random things that you just sit there and go, you just almost got like torn apart, or you're in the middle of being attacked and you have like stupid lines like this. Things like that are the reason why this game doesn't get like the perfect score. Overall, Resident Evil Village is an incredibly strong entry in the Resident Evil series, and I at this point am completely hooked on the first-person Resident Evil games. I cannot wait to see what they're going to do with Resident Evil 9. So let's, give this a final rating. Now keep in mind from the Doom Eternal review, we don't have the number system anymore. It's just the simple 4 categories that we were talking about. So it is either instant classic, worth a buy, wait till it's on sale, or completely unplayable. And out of those 4, I would personally rank this game absolutely worth a buy. Go out, get this game. It is so much fun. I don't think you'll regret it, because I sure as hell didn't. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on the next TGB video. Bye, guys.
Where the hell am I?